full-time drivers throughout the season. Most of our grids are anywhere between 9 and 13 or 14. We had a number of drivers running one-off races, but only 6 full-time drivers. And that kind of, I think, wreaked havoc a bit on Indy Lights. We didn't have enough of a pool of drivers to feed guys up into Indy Lights. 17 drivers in Indy Pro. Indy Lights has momentum. This is going to be a great run here for the road to Indy. As all of our packages really have dialed in. We went to a brand new car for USF 2000 in 2017, following up the new Indy Lights car in 2015, a brand new car in Pro Mazda in 2018. So now we have top-level machinery. All our engines are dialed in. Everything's really, really strong in terms of the technical side of all 3 levels of the road to Indy.
And with all 3 levels, as you move up the ladder, you get a little bit more of everything. There's a little bit more sophistication. There's a little bit more power. There's a little more sophistication in terms of the aerodynamics, the dampers and shocks, and that things that the cars have as part of. That's part of the learning process. Everything becomes a little more involved for the drivers, for the teams as they elevate and make their way up through the road to Indy. Artem Petrov with the first quick time at a 1:14.7. Again, as we saw in the USF 2000 series, those times will drop as the session moves along.
And expecting, again, second-year drivers or drivers who have been here before in USF 2000 to come to the forefront. Guys who have never raced here before, and there are a number of them in the field. Inam Ahmed, the English driver for RP Motorsports, has never been here. Enzo Fittipaldi, both those drivers for RP Motorsports USA, although they've been here, the drivers have not. Flynn Lazier has never run here. He's right here with Legacy Autosport. James Rowe Jr. for Turn 3 has never raced here. Kiffin Simpson in the number 21 for Juncos Racing. Hunter Yaney as well for Velocity Racing Development, last year's F4 champion. He's never been here before. So for a lot of these drivers, again, sighting laps, first time out here at speed. So we'll watch for them to come up maybe more quickly near the end of the session.
Already time starting to drop pretty quickly on lap 2, a 1:12.3 for Hunter McElrea on the quick time as around this 14-turn circuit. And the same process will occur as you watch all 3 levels of the road to Indy. It's a brief practice session. We're just about 4.5 minutes into it. Half-hour practice session, qualifying coming up later on. They have to maximize their time. You watch the times improve, and the same thing is to try to get as much track time as possible. Try to complete as many laps as possible. We'll hope these drivers can have a completely green session, go through that full 30 minutes, maximize their lap time, and improve their performance now at just over a minute 11 around the track.
Yeah, it's almost not even worth looking at live timing right now. You just know that the guys are going to go faster and faster and faster. Yeah, we'll throw some names out here, but like I said, we're about 4 seconds off the track record right now. They're going to get down probably, I would say, into maybe the low 8s, high 7s, I think, in the very first section here. Remember, Kiko Porto is about a second off, right? So expect us to do maybe, I want to say, mid 108s, high 108s, I think probably will be what we'll see.
Before we get too deep into this session, too, let's talk about Braden Eaves and the tremendous comeback that Braden Eaves had last year. Was running in the Indy Pro 2000 series last year, suffered a big crash at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the road course, lost out on the rest of the year. Back this year after recovery from a very serious injury, came back and actually was a winner at Barber a week ago.
Yeah, you think he went through that recovery period. That first step back was to race some karts. He did a couple of kart races once he started feeling good. It was a pretty serious neck injury and a face injury as well. But then got testing. Once testing got going, got back in the car, got settled in. It's a story that I know Braden wants to put behind him. He doesn't want this to be something we talk about throughout the season, right? It happened last year. It was a crazy crash. He was able to recover. But to get this win was huge for him at Barber Motorsports Park. His confidence, right? It's just his mental focus.
Exactly. It allows him to look forward once again, that it is behind him now. And this is something that drivers, as part of the mental game, have to worry about as well. It's just, you want to put that behind you. You want to start to see success when you do make a return after an absence, whichever the reason might be. If you can come back, pick up, be fast, have some success, it helps you focus your momentum forward.
Whatever level of confidence he may have been missing based on that, coming back to be able to get that victory, qualified on the pole and gets the race win, it's all gone right now. And especially with him and the team as well, they've all blended back together. And he and his teammate Artem Petrov they're both kind of quirky guys. You know, Braden, some racers are like that. Braden's a bit of a quirky guy. Of course, Artem Petrov from Russia, very stoic. You know, it's just, you can see when he's talking, he's calculating exactly what he's saying, what you're saying to him. But they have blended really good as a couple of teammates. Braden told me at Barber is that Artem's the best teammate he's ever had. He said just the way they're able to talk to each other on whatever level it is. And when teammates say that about each other, man, there's a lot of value to that moving forward.
Having that communication really helps as you're debriefing, trying to get that data, overlaying the data from one driver to the next, saying this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm feeling, this is how I'm approaching this corner. Having that communication can really help elevate the success of the
and knowing,
team.
too, that they have that inter-team rivalry, right? Because you want to win races, but at the very least, you got to beat your teammates. So nice for them to have that connection. Colin Kaminsky, fast driver right now, 5 laps in. We'll throw those numbers down to 109.917 for the driver out of Homer Glen, Illinois. Colin Kaminsky for Pabst Racing in the number 27. Hunter McElroy, his teammate, in the number 18 P2. So it's a Pabst Racing 1-2 out of the gate. Artem Petrov will break them up quickly. He'll go to P2. So Petrov, as we get a red flag. Red flag on the racetrack, only 8.5 minutes in. Another issue on track. We'll try to pick that up working around the track on the video. I can't, it's definitely not an 8-9. That's what we're watching right now. But again, a driver off the racetrack here. Let's have a quick look to see if we can find out where that driver has potentially gone off. Looks to be the 51, I think, between turns 9 and 10. Jacob Abel in the 51 potentially off. Now that's not a place you would normally make contact. That's literally right behind us here. No, actually, it would be over there to the far side of the track. I can't see anything at this point here. But again, between 9 all the way the run down to turn 10, the number 51 of Jacob Abel, at least what we're seeing here on our screens in the booth, that it is disabled, I guess, over in turn number 9.
Insert pun here, and all the rest of the cars making their way back down to pit road to return and allow those safety crews access to get out and retrieve the car of Jacob Abel and make sure that he is safe and all right and we can get back to racing. But now, again, just 10 minutes into the session, we're red flag, just as we had in the USF 2000 series. Let's hope that we can get past this situation quickly and get back to green flag action again. Drivers are looking for as much track time as they can get to learn as much as they can about the car, reacquaint themselves with the 1.8 mile circuit around the streets of St. Petersburg, get themselves comfortable again. The walls will look a little bit different, the placement may be slightly altered, and that little difference makes a big difference in terms of a lap time for a driver.
Indeed, getting things dialed in on the Road to Indy TV app and on IndyPro2000.com and RoadToIndy.tv. The opportunities to watch the broadcast here throughout the weekend. We say hello to those of you who have tuned in. My name is Rob Howden, joined by Todd Lewis here in the booth right before pit in. And the start-finish line, again, an issue here with Jacob Abel off the racetrack, at least disabled on track here in the number 51 machine, somewhere between turns 9 and 10. The AMR safety crew will, of course, go to work to get him back in here. Looks like we had probably about 10 minutes of green running for the drivers, so still a long way to go. Colin Kaminsky from Pabst Racing with the fastest lap thus far, a 109.917. Here comes the car here. Indeed, yeah, they're bringing him in now. That red and white machine of Jacob Abel just out of power, I assume, between 9 and 10, and again, having to go red. There's nowhere to go here. It's not like he can pull off the racetrack in one of the perils of road racing here on a temporary street circuit. Todd, there's just no place for a driver to pull off if something's wrong.
Surrounded by concrete, there's only a certain amount of space that you can try and hide, and that's why the red flag comes out, so the AMR safety team can retrieve him. They've got the tow rope out. Jacob Abel has a hold of it in the cockpit, and they return him now back to the attention of Abel Motorsports along pit lane. Yellow flag already back up in the air, which means we'll get back to green flag for this practice session quickly.
Kaminsky with the fastest lap, 3/10 quicker than Artem Petrov for Exclusive Autosport. The Pabst Racing drivers first and third. Kaminsky P1, Hunter McElroy, winner of round number 2 at Barber Motorsports Park, in the third position. Little Reese Gold, 16 years of age. I call him Little Reese Gold because I've known him for so long, but literally so many of these drivers, you come back after the offseason, they're like 2 inches taller. And Reese has actually, again, grown up quite a bit, added a couple of inches, added some weight, been in the gym working hard. Just 16 years of age, started in USF 2000 at 14, and 16 years old, making the jump to Indy Pro 2000. And we did one of our Q&A sessions over the Cooper Tire stage at Barber. Had a chance to talk to Reese and his team, and again, did a little flex for me there, tell me that he's been in the gym working hard, which is what you have to do, because again, we talked about the difference between the USF 2000 car and the Indy Pro 2000 car, more of everything, and it's just harder to drive. It's that much faster, it's that much more physical, no power steering in these cars, so these drivers continually have to up their game, not only mentally, but also physically as well.
Back to green flag racing out on course for this Indy Pro 2000 practice session. Cars are beginning to leave pit road once again. Some of them are staying behind, just taking an extra minute for tire temperatures and tire pressures to make sure they're set to go back out on course. Jacob Abel has been returned. They want to give themselves a little bit of room out on track as well. Try to maximize the performance of these Indy Pro 2000 cars and use these final 16 or 17 minutes to their best effort.
Let's have a look at the continuing the speeds that we've seen. We talked about Reese Gold, P4. Braden Eaves, your point leader for Exclusive Autosport, the 91 and 5th. Christian Rasmussen, last year's USF 2000 champion, had a race win in his hands at Barber Motorsports Park with a little spin over at turn 5, the Charlotte's Web corner there. Ended up bringing Hunter McElroy back up into him. Rasmussen saw him coming strong, made a quick little jink move, and essentially what they called it was Hunter made a move. He made a move to block. That's illegal. Ended up getting a 5-second penalty that dropped him down the order. Rasmussen currently 6th spot in the Road to Indy scholarship colors, the white, black, and red machine. Cameron Shields, who had a win here last year in the books until an electrical issue, he ends up 6th or 7th here right now. James Rowe Jr. for turn 3 and 8th. Manuel Suleiman 9th, and Enzo Fittipaldi for RP Motorsport rounding out the top 10.
Just about halfway through this Indy Pro 2000 session. Cars back out on track after a brief red flag for Jacob Abel. Car stopped out on course, quickly towed back by the AMR safety team. Back out on course now, and see the sun getting a little brighter. And we talked about the track conditions that they're going to be changing throughout the day, throughout the weekend as well. The track temperature will start to come up a little bit. There's a little bit more rubber down on the track. That's going to help in terms of track times, but it's going to be a little bit different as the day and as the weekend moves on. More track rubber and different track rubber from different series affects these cars and their handling throughout the circuit.
Every session is completely different in terms of the way the grip level are. That's the first couple of laps. The drivers have to get out there and really be cognizant of feeling the track. Where is the grip? Especially when IndyCar starts coming out as well. And then the other thing, we're in the Bay, and you can feel the wind. Right now the wind is at the tails as they work their way out of 14 down the straightaway. Sometimes we get the crosswind. You never know which way the wind's going to be going, and that changes the way the car will handle as well, especially in some of the braking zones. Kaminsky still on top in the number 27 for Pabst Racing. Petrov second, McElroy third, Gold fourth. Braden Eaves rounding out your early Fast Five. Just past the halfway point, about 14 minutes remaining. We have just about 11 minutes of green flag running for the drivers here. All getting comfortable. Qualifying set to go this afternoon. Quick look at the schedule. Of course, Indy Lights drivers are lining up in the paddock, getting themselves set to go. They're ready to go here at about 10:25 this afternoon. We are a little bit off schedule, but I'm sure we'll be able to make it up. USF 2000 back on the racetrack for qualifying for race 1 at 12:15. Indy Pro qualifying for race 1 at 12:50, and Indy Lights will qualify for the first round of their doubleheader at 1:25. Qualifying 2 for USF 2000 this afternoon at 3:30. And then Indy Lights back on track for their second qualifying session. Later in the day, 5:25. The track will be significantly different by the time that's all said and done.
See the times beginning to improve as well through this session. As mentioned, about halfway through it. Hunter McElroy now on top. 3 drivers under the 1:10 mark around this 1.8-mile circuit. Times beginning to improve, and much like we saw in USF 2000, for some of the drivers, perhaps a quick minute or two down on pit lane just to kind of catch your breath, refresh, and reset, as you like to say. Okay, I've figured it out. I've got myself comfortable and acclimated to the circuit once again. Now I can go out and charge just a little bit harder, drive a little bit deeper into some of those corners.
Christian Rasmussen up into the second spot, the J. Howard Driver Development Machine, the reigning USF 2000 champions of Denmark. P2, back by just 0.08 of a second. McElroy, Rasmussen, although McElroy goes quicker now, 0.2 faster, 109.5, with Kaminsky up into third. Now Rasmussen back to P1. Again, why do we do it? Why do we even talk about the top times when they keep changing like this every lap? Well, obviously the temperature's starting to come up in the tires for sure now.
Absolutely, and that's part of the excitement too. This is why we watch it. This is what attracts us. We want to see who can go better. Okay, and the teams are relaying this information as well to their drivers, understanding that your competitor has found a little bit of speed. Can you find a little bit more? Are you stepping up and improving the same way? So it's a motivating factor as well. Especially
when it's a teammate that's doing it as well. Hey, your teammate just did this. You need to step it up and get there. Christian Rasmussen on top, a 109.418. Like I said, still a long way away from the track record set by Stingray Robb last year. Jack William Miller in the Miller Vinatieri Motorsports number 40, that red machine, picking him up right there as he was able to slip by Kiffin Simpson, the rookie driver. Again, Simpson had a really good run at Barber Motorsports Park, but a significantly different racetrack. He did a lot of testing there. You can't do any testing here as well. That's the one big change from all the other tracks. You can go and you can bang out laps, you can test like so many drivers did at Barber Motorsports Park. We had our spring training event for the Road to Indy there as well, so everybody getting 2 days of on-track action. You come here, no testing. It's a clean slate for everybody.
Again, part of the learning process, adapting quickly to different conditions, to different circuits, and this one around St. Petersburg that has concrete blocks all the way around it. There is far less room for error here in St. Petersburg than there are on some of those more open circuits. Just up into the top 10 now. It is a familiar surname of Fittipaldi. It is Enzo Fittipaldi, who's in the Indy Pro 2000 series. Yes, he does have some pretty good family racing lines with grandfather Emerson Fittipaldi.
Indeed, there are there's Fittipaldis running all over the place. That's for sure. Pietro Fittipaldi as well, running in the NTT IndyCar series this year. And Cameron Shields jumping up to 8th. Got some good speed there. The D-Force racing machine. Again, Cameron had a sizable lead in race number 1 last year here at St. Petersburg, but an electrical issue put him on the sideline. Sad for the driver from Toowoomba, Australia. Same hometown as Will Power. He's been a race winner in USF 2000. Scored a victory on the Oval at Lucas Oil Raceway a number of years ago in the Freedom 75. Very talented driver out of Australia. And Cameron looking to try to put together a full season of racing here in Indy Pro. He deserves it, that's for sure.
Braden Eaves has now moved up to the top spot, a 109.3, a 109.39. Again, we're seeing the times drop consistently now. Just for the top 10 is under the 1 minute 10 mark and continuing to move quicker as we get with just a few minutes left to go, under 10 minutes left to go in the session.
Interesting. Braden didn't race here, of course, last year because of the incident at IMS, but when we were here back in March, when COVID-19 shut everything down, he was faster than everybody by a half a second in that one practice session. And in his mind was, man, I'm gonna rock this season. This is, I'm so happy. He likes this racetrack a lot. Won here in USF 2000, so I would not be surprised to see him find his way to the top of the charts in qualifying. Here's Reese Gold right now in the ticket clinic machine for Juncos Racing. Did 2 years with Cape Motorsports in USF 2000. Reese Gold from Miami, Florida, moving up to P2 now, a 109.394, 700ths behind Braden Eaves. So Gold has experience, a couple of years here at Barber Motorsports, at St. Petersburg. So for him, a track that he knows and is comfortable on. Maybe not this race car, but he still knows all the sight lines, He knows what it's like to be behind the wheel with all the fencing and all the concrete.
Exactly. You have that experience, whether it's in a different discipline or not. You still have that comfort level, that familiarity with this challenging track here on the streets of St. Petersburg. It gives you a base reference point to start from, and understanding the turn-in points, understanding the braking points, and what it takes to go fast around here.
So the thing is, I went for the track walk yesterday, around the whole facility, and you walk around and you see, well, some of the parts are kind of narrow, but some of them are kind of big, but you're walking. I literally was in the Symmetric Driver Performance Labs trailer. Symmetric is one of our partners at the Road to Indy, and they bring an absolute top-level simulator with them each and every race. So the drivers can get out of the car, do their debrief, and they can really jump in the simulator and get a feel for the changes they made or how they're changing their approach to the corners. I went in there and watched one of the drivers when they were actually in the simulator yesterday, because the simulator's booked all weekend long because everybody wants to drive St. Petersburg, more track time. And just watching the video of the driver running, it's so narrow. Because when you're out there walking it, it feels kind of wide. There was a couple, like down into turn, I want to say it's turn number 8, as you come into 8 and 9, it is super narrow down there. But you kind of look at it, you're like, wow, once you're in the car and going at speed, it's not near as wide as you think it is when you're out there racing, especially if you're side by side with somebody.
It's a very different perspective when you're standing and looking around the track and you see the concrete walls. All right, this is not so bad, this is okay. But basically, to get the driver perspective, sit on the ground and then look around and see how close those concrete walls are, and that they're up around your eye level. That gives you a very different perspective. But that's what the drivers see out there.
Right? And then somehow they go 2 and 3 wide into some of these corners, which always blows my mind. Number of drivers coming into pit lane: Rasmussen being 1 from P4, Kaminsky from P6, Fittipaldi from P9, Wyatt Prokacek from P11, all into pit lane right now. Jacob Abel, they have not been able to get him back out onto the racetrack yet. Just 4 laps in for Abel before he had that issue coming out of turn number 9.
Stopped out on course, had to be retrieved by the AMR safety crew, was brought back into pit lane, where attention continues to be given to that number 51 car. Now, you mentioned a number of other cars along pit lane. This would be, I suspect, a standard procedure, is that they've run a number of laps. They maybe want to check tire temperatures, tire pressures, have a quick discussion with their driver and see what they might want to adjust, might want to change, try and improve for the final few minutes of this session.
Well, they've moved us down where we are here in the booth up in the suites closer to pit in. I'd love to be able to go way down the end to find out what's going on. I know a number of the drivers are down the far end. I don't know that anybody will put fresh tires on right now. I just don't think it would be the right call. I'm not a strategist, but with only 3 sets of fresh rubber, I think you'll wait to qualify. Yeah, I'm sure they'd love to do a qualifying simulation, but you don't have that rubber to use. We keep the costs down for the series a bit by not giving them unlimited sets of tires. McElroy still on top with a 109.306, but Braden Eaves back by just 11 thousandths of a second. Top 4 drivers separated by just over a tenth, as a 22 now, Manuel Suleiman coming down here. 2 times the winner last year for Manuel Suleiman, scored a victory running with D-Force Racing last year at New Jersey Motorsports Park and Mid-Ohio. So Manuel, definitely a driver we have to believe will be in the championship fight. He did have 1 DNF, though, I believe, at Barber, so he's down actually in 16th in points, so he's going to fight his way back.
Again, we talked about the overall championship battle, that an issue early in the season you can start to drag up and think about at the end of the season. If only I'd been able to gain another couple of spots, if only I didn't have that DNF, was able to complete a few more laps. That could make a big impact, and this is something that drivers are already thinking about just the second weekend of the season. You have to think about that big picture, because the ultimate goal is to climb as high as you can in that championship and achieve that scholarship.
I guess the beauty of if you have an issue, or at least the positive if you have an issue early, you can claw back. If you have the issue late, you're in trouble, but through your mindset, you can claw back. Maybe you go on more of a defensive mindset, where as long as I'm getting 5 points a race, I can come back into this championship fight. And you never know when something may happen. We've seen it before. Last year, Christian Rasmussen, I want to say, won the first 6 or 7 races of the year, and then had a horrible run at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I think finished almost dead last both races. Wants to come back at Mid-Ohio, a track he's good at, drives off the carousel, the opening race. Literally, the gap was 50 or something points. It was 3 points after those 3 races. Everything was wide open again.
I said at the end of the season when I was talking to him, he told me he was just trying to get the championship close, make a big fight for the end of the season. But no, that's how big a swing there is, and that's how important every session is. That sometimes you can feel that momentum, and you're on a roll, and you have that comfort zone, but it can go away quickly, and then trying to get it back can be the challenge.
Well, and even more in USF 2000 because the field is so big, right? When you have a smaller field, even finishing last, you're getting good points. 17 drivers right now. If you're finishing last, you're getting 2, 3, 4 points. It's not like you're pulling a lot of points. So that's the difference. We can get that flip if somebody wins and somebody gets a DNF. A DNF, unbelievably important. And not in a lot of karting series, you'll have one drop. So you'll be able to run a full program, and you can drop your worst race. That doesn't happen here. This is the big leagues.
Just over 3 minutes remaining in this Indy Pro 2000 practice session in the morning. Braden Eaves continues with the quick time at 1:09.13. Christian Rasmussen, Hunter McElroy, Reese Gold, Colin Kaminsky are the top 5.
Yeah, Braden Eaves back to the top of the charts again. Again, lots of experience here in USF 2000. Didn't get a chance to race here last year after the incident at IMS, but was the fastest driver in the lone practice session we had in March of 2020. Eaves in the exclusive Autosport number 91, the white and red machine, Cambridge Global Payments, the sponsor on the side of the car. Christian Rasmussen now goes P1. The Dane back 11 thousandths quicker again, a 109.125. Hunter McElroy in third, Reese Gold fourth. Gold, the quickest rookie driver in the program as well. Inam Ahmed, the Englishman, for RP Motorsports, up into 7th spot. Just started testing late last season. The driver was a former British F3 champion, ran in the FIA F3 program. And Nam's a driver I think we're going to see really start getting his way in here. Once he gets comfortable with this race car and the tracks, I think he's going to be a challenger for the race win. And RP Motorsports wasn't here last year. They won the championship with Kyle Kirkwood back in 2019, but couldn't get over here last year due to COVID. So they're back, they're resetting again, and they're getting at it. So I would expect RP Motorsport and both their drivers, Ahmed and Fittipaldi, to start working their way up the grid.
Just about a minute and a half remaining in this Indy Pro 2000 practice session. They will be back later on for qualifying again. They have a doubleheader weekend as well, so they will qualify for 2 races later on today. And this again, as Rob has mentioned, it's unlikely that we will see fresh tires in this session, but in the qualifying sessions to come later on, fresh tires, 100%. More grip, more speed, more excitement for the driver.
Yeah, more of everything again, right? Indy Pro 2000 will qualify at 12:50, and again, tomorrow morning. They actually don't qualify, I believe, until tomorrow morning. Yeah, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, their qualifying session. They have a race 1 at 11:50 tomorrow morning. So right around the noon hour, these guys will go wheel to wheel for the first time. And Braden Eaves still holding the top spot here with less than a minute remaining. He's got a full 1/10 of a second now on Rasmussen. And what I like here, 3 different teams, Todd, the top 3. Exclusive Autosport with Braden Eaves, Jay Howard Driver Development with Rasmussen, and Pabst Racing with Hunter McElroy. The beauty of this program, it's the same race car for everyone. It's the same Tatis chassis. It's the same elite engine package that we have. All the same Cooper tires. The driver and the teams, those are the variables, right? Teams, the engineers, the mechanics, how they put the car together, and then the driver still got to get the job done, which is the beauty of this kind of program here. It's spec series, but it goes all on the individuals that are part of it.
And that's part of the learning process. Yeah. That's the idea and the objective of the road to Indy, is to learn, become more sophisticated as you continue to step up the ladder, ideally all the way up through to the NTT IndyCar Series. As we see that 77 car coming along pit road.
Inam Ahmed
just coming to an end a little bit early before the end of this session. Just the final couple of seconds have ticked away. Drivers should be getting the checkered flag now out on course.
Braden Eaves trying to pick up kind of where he left off at Barber Motorsports Park. Left that event as the point leader, the number 91 machine. Quickest so far. In fact, he just dropped a big lap down there, lapped the final circuit. A 108.893, Braden Eaves, 2/10 quicker. And again, coming out of the gate like this in the practice session, if you're P1, that's a huge momentum push, right? Everybody else in the paddock knows they're chasing you, and I think that's key. Braden Eaves with the quick time, a 108.893, remainder of the field working their way around this final circuit. Christian Rasmussen in the 2nd spot, Hunter McElroy in 3rd. Jack William Miller in the Miller Vinatieri Motorsports, number 40, up into the 4th position. One driver blowing the checkered flag, so that'll be a bit of a reprimand. They get the checkered flag on the back part of the racetrack between 13 and 14. They have to come in. That was Hunter Yaney in the number 11 for Velocity Racing Development, blowing that checker, so he'll go one more time around. But again, Eaves P1, Rasmussen 2nd, McElroy 3rd. Reese Gold in the final circuit, moving up to P4. The Miami, Florida driver, just 16 years of age. Gold in the 55 for Juncos Racing, multi-time series champions, goes P4. Jack William Miller in the 5th spot, Artem Petrov in 6th. Colin Kaminsky in 7th, Wyatt Prokacek 8th, Manuel Suleiman 9th, and Inam Ahmed rounding out the top 10. Fittipaldi 11th, Shields 12th, Lazier 13th, James Rowe 14th, Kiffin Simpson 15th, Hunter Yaney 16th, and as we said, Jacob Abel had the issue coming to a stop out on the racetrack just 4 laps into the session. He was not able to get back onto the racetrack. But Todd, for Braden Eaves, kind of picking up where he left off. Didn't race here last year at our season finale, as we talked about, but back in March of 2020, in that COVID weekend we had here where we shut everything down, he was the fastest driver in the opening practice session. Does the same thing here for the opening practice session, or the single practice session of this event this weekend.
Just by a little bit, but he's also the only driver under a 1 minute 9 here in the Indy Pro 2000 as the final competitor just making their way down along pit lane. They'll clear these cars. The Indy Lights cars will come up a little bit later on. But again, now it's qualifying. The debriefs will begin for the Indy Pro 2000 drivers and their teams to see what adjustments they might want to make to try to catch Braden Eaves, who is the quick time at the moment of 1:08.893. The only driver under a 1 minute 9.
Yeah, Braden's going to be happy with that. He'll feed off that momentum. There's your Fast Six, folks. Braden Eaves, Christian Rasmussen, Hunter McElroy, Reese Gold, Jack William Miller, and Artem Petrov.
Rob Howden will be back a little bit later on for USF 2000 qualifying, Indy Pro 2000 qualifying. You'll hear him on IndyCar Radio as well. Indy Lights will be hitting the track next for practice. Their first practice session, the MX-5 Cup cars, will also return just after that. Bystander CPR can significantly increase the survival rate for victims of sudden cardiac arrest. When an adult is unresponsive and not breathing normally, take the following steps. First, call 911. Be sure someone else calls. Place your hands at the center of the chest and push hard and fast. Don't stop till help arrives.
Lewis, and we say hello to those of you listening into the IndyCar Radio Network here as well on Sirius XM. Indy Lights drivers back to the track again. Todd, again, you got to go all the way back to 2020. Last time we actually raced here was 2019, but 2020, that weekend we had here, COVID-19 reared its ugly head. David Malucas was the fastest driver in the one practice session that we had. Fast forward, we've already had one race in the book, but we're back here at St. Petersburg with 13 drivers in Indy Lights.
It was such a disappointment a year ago when we had to shut down. We did get the one session, and unfortunately, Indy Lights had to be suspended for the 2020 season, but they have roared back with, as you mentioned, 13 cars out on track and some tremendous competitors in the field as well. And also, the halo has been installed on these cars. That's a new look for these Indy Lights machines as well.
I think that's part of it, right? It's just such an interesting way for us to come back. We struggled with numbers over the last couple of years, single digits, maybe 10 cars, 11 cars. A lot of momentum right now for the Indy Lights program. 2 graduating classes of drivers coming up into the series. 2019 champions, 2020 champions, and Indy Lights both now into the program as well. We've got drivers coming in from England, from other parts of the country, driver coming up from Australia, and Alex Peroni. Like you said, we have the installation of the Halo type device, which I think people are raving about right now, the way it looks on this race car. I was kind of skeptical, but when I first saw it, I went, man, this thing looks great. And then you throw in as well the return of Carlin Racing, who made their debut in Indy Lights racing back here in 2015 at St. Petersburg when we rolled out the new Dallara IL-15 car, the car they run right now. Great to have them back here with both Alex Peroni and Christian Bogle.
Carlin Racing took a break from the Indy Lights program as they were getting their NTT IndyCar Series program up and going, wanted to focus their efforts on that. Now back into the Indy Lights program as well, where they've had success in the past, and good to see them out on track. This is a season that has a lot of excitement that should be playing out throughout 2021 with 2 scholarship winners in and a lot of other fast drivers as well who have already in the first round of the season shown what they can do at Barber Motorsports Park in the first couple of races, and we're expecting to see more excitement from them here in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, in a number of the preview podcasts that I did, I was interviewed by a bunch of people, and they asked me about my thoughts on the season. And you bring Carlin back, they're a former championship winner. You've got Juncos Racing, former championship winner. It's been Andretti Autosport the last couple of years. They really have kind of become the juggernaut with the guys like Oliver Askew and Pato O'Ward, Colton Herta winning a number of races for them. They had some tremendous years. There's competition this year, which is amazing, because out of the gate at Barber Motorsports Park, the HMD Motorsports and Global Racing Services team had done a lot of testing at that particular track. They've really dedicated themselves to testing. They got some great drivers. Well, they really were the guys to beat all weekend at Barber Motorsports Park. Young Linus Lundqvist out of Sweden, who won the FRA championship last year to come to the scholarship to come to Indy Lights, was a bit of an unknown for me coming in. But man, he showed for sure that he is up to the task, winning the first race. His teammate David Malucas coming back in the second race to get the victory after contact with he and Kyle Kirkwood in the opening round when Kirkwood got into the back of him at the start. So HMD comes out of the gate looking strong with Global Racing Group. Can Andretti bounce back here at St. Petersburg? Again, no testing here, so more of the blank slate. Andretti only tested a couple of days at Barber Motorsports Park. I want to say 6 or 7 days of testing for HMD. So they came into Barber with a little bit more, I think, advantage in terms of track knowledge. This racetrack is where it will change everything.
It's interesting, the coming together of HMD and GRG as well, creating kind of a powerhouse to pool their resources and knowledge and data to try to elevate both programs as well, and how that impacts the rest of the season.
And this all happened last year, being at the paddock together, but it's an HMD program and then Global Racing Group with HMD. So it's a full HMG program, but Global, as you say, bringing in their business side, their technical side as well. And that collaboration, I think, is going to be big. And again, David Malucas, just like we talked about with the USF 2000 Indy Pros, who was quick back in 2020 when we were first here. Braden Eaves, of course, quickest driver in Indy Pro. David Malucas was the guy that was the quickest when we were here in 2020 back in March. That one lone session, he was the fastest driver, was unbelievably happy with the car and the team. That's not stopped, because that's exactly how he sounded when he got out of the car having won race 2 at Barber.
Devlin DiFrancesco, second quick in the early going, a 109.54. Also had himself a very good weekend at Barber Motorsport Park just a week ago with a couple of podium finishes, and it will be interesting to see if he can carry that over here as well.
Yeah, and again, DiFrancesco, runner-up last year in the Indy Pro 2000 category. He was focusing on Formula One and the European scene, and then elected, hey, you know what? I like what I'm seeing back here at the NTT IndyCar Series, kind of connected up a little bit with George Steinbrenner. Again, he's running for Steinbrenner, Andretti Steinbrenner Autosport, so kind of a team within a team. But last year, Indy Pro 2000 runner-up, and he was the best of the Andretti crew at Barber with a couple of podium finishes. So good on the Canadian DiFrancesco. He currently sits in the second spot behind David Malucas. Malucas with the fast time, a 107.846. Linus Lundqvist, point leader, now in the third spot. His teammate Benjamin Pedersen in fourth. Benjamin announcing a new sponsor on the car this particular weekend. Antonio Saravalli, that's another great story that we'll talk about, because we had 12 confirmed drivers maybe about a month and a half ago. Well, Antonio's father, Peter, they were trying to figure out a way to get Antonio into the series. They talked to a bunch of different teams. They couldn't come to an agreement of how to put it together. So he said, I'm going to start my own team. So he leased a car, leased a trailer, put everything together. They got the car together, they got the halo put on it, and he rolled out at spring training, having not driven that car about more than 1 day of testing. So whatever they're able to do, if he's able to get through the weekend and get all the laps in, it'll be a win for Antonio Saravalli.
That's a great story for Antonio Saravalli and his family to decide to put together a program and then get it done in time to start the season and get out there. David Malucas has just gone quicker again, as we're just about 7.5 minutes into this one practice session this morning for the Indy Lights series. David Malucas with a 107.2. Devlin DiFrancesco, Linus Lundqvist, the top three in the Indy Lights series here on the streets of St. Petersburg in the early going.
Qualifying track record still belongs to Pato O'Ward, a 105.039, so we're about 2.2 seconds off that still. Long way to go to get down to those particular lap times, but we will look for that throughout the day when qualifying does continue for the Indy Lights guys. Right now it's Malucas on top with a 107.244, picking up where we left off last March. Devlin DiFrancesco second, Lundqvist third, Pedersen fourth. Move Alex Peroni, the Aussie, in the Bloodstone-sponsored machine, running for Carlin up into the top five now. Toby Sowery in the sixth spot. He made his debut here back in 2018. Had, I think, maybe one test. He was literally, hey, we're a week away from the race. Do you want to put the program together? He shows up into running with HMD and put on a pretty good show there. He's seventh right now. Sowery running for Juncos Racing this year alongside Stingray Robb, last year's Indy Pro 2000 champion. And you just got to look back at the success that Juncos Racing has had over the years. They won the championship with Spencer Piggott in 2015. They won the championship later on down the line with Kyle Kaiser, and then all those wins with Renus VK back in 2019 as well. So again, they're a great team. Ricardo Juncos has got a fantastic team. He's got the veteran in Sowery, and then the rookie in Stingray Robb, a nice little group of guys there.
And again, it's the team that learns with each other too, and it's great to have a rookie in the series who has a veteran to learn from, and part of that getting acclimated to a new team and a new series, having that veteran who has the experience of a go through the series gives them a lot of information to draw on.
And Stingray Robb was fast here last year in Indy Pro 2000, so I expect he's going to transition pretty nicely here. Currently at the tail of the grid, a 110.458. But I expect he's taking it really slowly here right now. Just getting comfortable. You do not want to make a mistake. We talked about how there's more power, more speed as you go up through the ranks, USF 2000 to Indy Pro to Indy Lights. Crashes are more expensive as well. so sometimes it's a good idea to maybe be a little extra cautious here as well to make sure you don't make any mistakes.
And that would make sense for Stingray Robb. As you mentioned, during the final weekend here at St. Petersburg last fall, he absolutely dominated.
Yeah.
It looked like he was absolutely on his way to a perfect sweep of the weekend before it went away late, but he was absolutely the dominant car in the Indy Pro 2000. Really put a cherry on the sundae of that championship.
That's very true. I mentioned Benjamin Pedersen for Global Racing Group. and HMD Motorsports announcing new sponsors, new partners here this particular weekend, actually just today. Colibri Capital and Ameriprise Financial coming on board. Announced another sponsor back at VRX Simulators back at Barber Motorsports Park. So they're doing a good job putting together the support program for Benjamin Pedersen.
Daniel Frost has jumped up to third quick, and he's still in the early going in this Indy Lights practice session here on the streets of St. Petersburg. There'll be a lot of jumping around, a lot of moving up and down the timesheets as we go through it, but nice to see Daniel Frost up top quickly.
Well, one of the interesting things, too, is you know, drivers on the road to Indy who have been here for a number of years have driven here at St. Petersburg. They've been on the street circuit at Toronto as well, so they have some street circuit experience. Benjamin Pedersen, this is his first time on a street circuit, so very first time, so it'll be interesting for him. A guy like Alex Peroni, very strong. He's run in Pau, he's run in Monaco, he's had great success as well. Ran back in the Formula Renault days. So Peroni's the guy I think is going to be very comfortable here. And again, he's smart enough that he's going to just take his time coming up to speed. Don't read too much into 11 minutes into this session because guys are just getting quicker and quicker. And again, those carryover sets. 4 sets of tires for Indy Lights, not the 3 for the other categories. So 4 sets all total, but they'll be running that carryover set here in the opening session as well.
Linus Lundqvist is another one of those drivers who hasn't driven on the street circuits as well, and that was one of the things he was very curious about at the start of the season is, I've never driven around concrete before. I don't think he'll find it intimidating because that doesn't seem to be his personality,
no.
And that he's willing and wants to accept and look at the next challenge, but it's a different perspective, having the concrete surround you where he's used to running on typical road circuits.
Completely. It's ridiculously different, and you're bang on there because the visuals are so different. You know, you think about driving in a Road America, Mid-Ohio, you know what the views are going to look like. There's the grass here, there's so much open track. It's here where everything is just, like I said, it's like driving through a concrete canyon. We use that a lot because it's just so narrow on the focus, and it's so much harder to pick up some of those turn-in points because you don't have a tree you're hitting or whatever, or this big piece of curb you're hitting. A lot of the time you're just cruising around the wall itself too.
Indy Lights qualifying will take place a little bit later on this afternoon because at 1:25 p.m. for Indy Lights qualifying, and then they will race both Saturday and Sunday here at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Indy Lights race number 1 Saturday afternoon, 3:20 p.m., and Indy Lights race number 2 is at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. You'll hear those here. You'll see them if you're watching in Canada on Rev TV as well, live on television on Saturday and Sunday for the Indy Lights races.
Yeah, Peacock for the U.S., Rev TV in Canada, and if you're international and you'll want to watch the Indy Lights races, go to the Races YouTube channel. The Race on YouTube. Fantastic following numbers last race. So we're going to do a little bit more to kind of dial things in. We had a bit of an issue with some choppy coverage, but the internet access at Barber Motorsports Park just wasn't exactly what we wanted. Hopefully we'll get better access here, and that'll be a smoother show for those of you watching internationally on the race.
Power was a bit of a challenge at Barber Motorsports Park once or twice too, wasn't it?
That's true, yeah. We lost power right before our USF 2000 race. We lose power. A transformer got blown out. We end up having to move USF 2000 after IndyCar. They were bringing in generators everywhere to run race control. Kudos to everybody involved there to actually get that session running for IndyCar qualifying just about 5 minutes late. That was about it. Peroni up to P5. I talked about the fact that Alex, the Australian, has a lot of pace. And we'll give a shout out to everyone listening down in Australia. I know it's probably early in the morning there, whatever time it actually is on the split. But I know that a lot of people listening in from Australia. He's currently P3, back by about 0.4 of a second. But David Malucas, Todd, picking up right where he left off last March. I don't want to say he was 2 or 3 tenths clear there. He's now 4 tenths quicker than Daniel Frost, a Singaporean driver for Andretti Autosport. And Malucas is coming off that race win at Barber, his first ever Indy Lights win. There's just so much momentum there, right? The confidence, you've got that race win, the swagger for the last couple of days. If he's able to win here again, It blows things wide open, that's for sure, I think.
It certainly gets the attention of the rest of the competitors in the Indy Lights series in the early going. If he's able to post a win in the first weekend, if he's able to continue to run strong here in St. Petersburg, maybe pick up another victory, it sets himself up on a good trajectory for the rest of the season and the championship, because that's where all of these drivers are eyeing. They're eyeing themselves on that prize of that scholarship.
Yeah, almost $1.3 million, the scholarship to win here in Indy Lights, and of course that money used for a 3-race program in the NTT IndyCar Series, including a program at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Indianapolis 500. I can't say that you're actually in the Indy 500 because you still got to qualify. Again, we'll have bumping this year. Incredible, Todd. I know you're going to enjoy being part of the NTT IndyCar Series show this particular weekend, but man, to see the drivers coming in that are, 36, 37 drivers maybe this year, including so many of our veterans from the road to Indy as well, which is great, because we always talk about the fact that on any given year, anywhere between like 24 and 26 drivers of the 33 all came through the road to Indy, which is a proud thing for us.
That's a fantastic testament to the work that the road to Indy does on all 3 levels. When drivers come in the USF 2000, learning about open wheel cars, and then stepping up to Indy Pro 2000, and then Indy Lights, and the objective is preparation to move to the next step, which is the NTT IndyCar Series.
And the weirdest thing for us right now is we don't have one of our champions in that series, in the IndyCar Series this year, because we didn't have Indy Lights last year. There was no scholarship driver moving forward. We still have guys to cheer for. Pato O'Ward, Felix Rosenquist, Jack Harvey, Renus VK. You go through the field, so many of them have come through Indy Lights or some form of the road to Indy. And yeah, just no scholarship champion this year. We'll get one next year, though, which I'm happy about.
Kyle Kirkwood's just jumped up to 3rd quick on the time sheet of 106.3. Another terrific story about Kyle Kirkwood, who was set to run in the Indy Lights Series last year, of course, then got pushed to the side. But on the year previous to that, in 2019, was on an incredible run of success in just about anything that he drove that year.
Yeah, literally 4 championships over 3 years in all the junior formulas. Of course, he won USF 2000. In 2018, won the Indy Pro in 2019, was scheduled to have the scholarship in 2020. He'll now run this year, although not a good weekend to start things off at Barber Motorsports Park. Got into the back of David Malucas at the start of the first race, ended up starting at the tail in race number 2 because of that. A lot of issues for Kirkwood. And I want to say Steve Wittig from TSOladder.com actually put it in his preview that I think it was like the first opening weekend where he wasn't on the podium at least once, or maybe even for the entire year that he hasn't been on the podium at least once. Even if there's issues, he comes back, and to have no podiums there, Kyle Kirkwood, again, much farther down the order than I think he would like to be to start this season. He's currently in the 7th spot in points with Linus Lundqvist, of course, up front.
But only 2 rounds have been completed in the Indy Lights Series. So now it's an opportunity, and this is helpful to some drivers, is that you have an immediate opportunity to come back the following week. It's a different track, it's a different circuit, but one where you're familiar, you're comfortable with because you've run in previous series, and it's an opportunity to get back on track, regain your focus after a difficult and challenging first weekend at Indy Lights for Kyle Kirkwood.
On the big screen here, riding on board with Stingray Rob from Payette, Idaho, last year's Indy Pro 2000 champion, running for Juncos Racing. Stingray currently in the 11th spot with a 107.412. And again, the direct connection to him last year, having so much success here in the Indy Pro 2000 category, getting a good feel here for Indy Lights, hustling this Dallara IL-15 around. Here's the big sweeping hairpin. It's a wide hairpin. It's not a narrow hairpin. It's a big, wide sweeping hairpin coming back onto the straightaway. Stingray Rob rolling through here again. His best lap of 107.4, about 1.3 off the time laid down by David Malucas. Malucas, of course, with a full season in 2019 and then ran another program in 2020 to come back to Indy Lights here in 2021. And that HMD squad looking really good. And a little bit of a shakeup, though. Remember, right now it's P1 for Malucas. Then you got to go down to Benjamin Pedersen in 6th spot. Then Nikita Lastushkin in 9th. And Linus Lundqvist actually down in the 10th position right now. Malucas in the pit lane as well, the number 79s. We continue to ride on board here with Stingray Rob, but HMD not showing the same real power that they had coming out of the gate at Barber. Again, not the chance to test here, as again, always clean slate, even playing field for everybody coming into the race here in St. Petersburg. The only thing you have is experience from being here before.
And not everybody has as much experience from the year before. This is a terrific view on board if you're able to see the big screens around the track here on board with Stingray Rob. Just back out onto the front straightaway now, headed towards the start-finish line, and then corner number 1. You see they reach the peak speeds, and then how quickly that slow down, and make that right-hand turn, followed quickly by 2 and 3, that combination before you go under the bridge and into the twisty part of the back part of the circuit.
I love the look of that race car too. The white, the pearl white, then the red, then I believe it's a midnight blue. They're saying on the Indy Lights car with the scholarship. And again, you can see right behind him, Daniel Frost, I believe, in the number 68. In fact, Frost has gone to P1. And Daniel Frost, got Daniel on the back wing. He has hustled that thing around. You could see the rear end skate out when he was coming through turn number 8 and 9. Todd, he is pushing hard. P1, a 105.956, 0.08 of a second quicker than Malucas. Daniel Frost did not have the best weekend at Barber. I think the weekend he would have wanted to come out with. If he ends up P1 in this session, all will be forgotten from Barber.
Yes, you can see perhaps a little bit of the used tires, the old tires in there as well. The back end starting to skate out just a little bit, trying to hustle that car and maximize everything you can get out of it, but without the benefit of fresh rubber on the start of session, maybe starting to feel those older tires just a little bit too.
Well, and one thing to bring up here as well, if you're a fan of Indy Lights and followed all the action from Barber Motorsports Park, one of the issues we did have, which probably hindered us from some of the better racing we could have had, is our push-to-pass program wasn't activated. We test it during practice to make sure it's correct. The drivers all out here right now are getting 3 opportunities to use the push-to-pass, which is 50 more horsepower, and you get that activated if you're within 1.5 seconds of the guy in front of you. Now, it's an offensive move, not defensive like it is in IndyCar. You could go push-to-pass in IndyCar, and the guy in front of you can activate it as well. In Indy Lights, it's only used for the guy behind. We had an issue at Barber Motorsports Park. We were having some trouble with the timing lines to let you know if a guy is 1.5 back. We were 99.9% sure it was fixed going into the races, but we couldn't have it. It has to be 100 because we can't have 6 guys being able to use it and 7 guys not being able to use it, so we'd elected not. Barber would have been a great place to push to pass, but it works here as well big time, especially coming onto the straightaway. So we'll see some fast laps jumping up. We don't know who has used it, but every driver gets the chance to use the push to pass 3 times during this practice session to get a feel for it.
And that will make for dramatic moments during the race coming up on Saturday and on Sunday.
Indeed.
Daniel Frost right now under a minute 6 around this 1.8-mile circuit here on the streets of St. Petersburg. A 105.956 for Daniel Frost, followed by David Malucas, Peroni DiFrancesco, and Kyle Kirkwood round out the top 5 in Indy Lights 23 minutes into the practice session.
And I'll just throw this out here for Daniel Frost. He was actually a race winner back in Indy Pro 2000, I think 2019 at Toronto. So here's a guy that can hustle around a tight street circuit. And I think Toronto's probably even a bit tighter than this particular track here. There is some very tight places, and it's bumpy as well. This place has become rather smooth in the repaving they've done. Toronto, on the other hand, still pretty bumpy through a lot of the parts of the racetrack.
Indeed, there are some very bumpy stretches on the streets of Toronto. And
Red
we've
flag.
got a car here into
That's Daniel Frost.
Daniel Frost hustling around, now has it into the wall.
The driver who is P1, we talked about Daniel hustling around through 8 and 9, getting the rear end cooked. This is coming through turn number 10, a fast left-hander rather, and this we've seen before, just taking too much speed through that corner, stuffed it hard into the wall, pretty significant right front damage to the number 68 Andretti Autosport machine of Daniel Frost. And again, as we just talked about, a former race winner on the streets of Toronto. The AMR safety team arriving at the car of Daniel Frost. I don't know that that's going to be, I don't think there's that much damage. So the right front designed to tear away like that. Pretty good hit there. And as you can see, that's coming through the corner. So it's not like he overcooked and locked the brakes up and really slammed into the tires. It looks more like he was kind of getting through the corner, and the car just probably pushed out
carried
a little bit
wide
yep.
into the right front.
Well, we're getting the replay from the crew here in the TV truck, so let's have a look at this. And this is just going to be the shot. Watch him coming through. You'll see. Oh, no, he's already had damage. The damage happened before, unless that was slow-mo. If we can run that thing at full speed, that would be better. Yeah, let's take that at full speed so we can have a look at it if possible. That was slow-mo. I thought that he was just rolling through there like he had damage before. If indeed that was the case, he missed that corner a ton. All right, let's have a full speed replay here coming through. Yeah, oh indeed. So he hit just the side of the tires there, and that's your full speed replay. And indeed, that looks to me like he missed the turn-in and got too deep on the brakes coming in and potentially rolling too much speed. And listen, your tires can only do so much. When you have turn-in, I love the analogy that your tire has 100% grip. And you have to have that. If you're turning, you're taking away from grip. If you're trying to brake, you're taking away from grip. There's only 100% to use. Just like you say, if you lock the brakes up and turn the wheel, the car's not turning because your tires are 100% braking.
Have another look.
Yeah,
this is slow motion replay, and you can see he's gotten a little wide.